Oh, that's good. Is that good? Okay.
Hit the button.
Okay.
Is it even going? Okay, it is.
Okay, I wanted to start off with a question, like, because we were just talking about like, we know racism is gonna be a long while before, if it does, it's gonna be a long time, like thousands of years before it.
I don't even think it's gonna go away.
Yeah, it's
There's
just
always
there.
gonna be that one person, that one group, that one just someone out there that doesn't want that, or doesn't want that person, doesn't want their culture, doesn't want their religion. You don't want them here.
Yeah, but we don't live in a perfect world.
It can't. It's not only the point that that one person is going to dislike the other person. It's the fact that they are not going to want them to exist. It's like, oh, you're too different from me. I don't want you alive on the same planet.
They're always gonna be those.
Like Madison said, there's always going to be someone, and there was a person that did something about it, and that was Hitler, because he didn't like brown-haired, brown-eyed people. He wanted blonde-haired, blue-eyed people, and he didn't want Jewish people, because most Jewish people. Jorry, put the camera down.
Sorry.
Keep the camera. Because most people didn't. He didn't want any Jewish people, so he did something about it.
Yeah.
And I guess they did it. They did that to slavery too, considering the fact that they singled out the black people and they made them like animals.
That's sort of like
The only difference there is that most of the time they didn't kill the slaves. I don't think they just tortured them. They just tortured them. They whipped them. They made them work.
because the slaves were property,
They were property, but
so they couldn't afford to like.
Expensive property.
expensive property. But in the Holocaust, it was a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
The concentration.
Yeah, the concentration camps.
The story of Anne Frank is the best way to like state how. Hello.
Keep talking.
So, the story of Anne Frank, it relates to the American slavery where she has a hard time living in Germany and she moves to the Netherlands, I think.
I don't know.
And then Hitler keeps coming. And apparently, unfortunately, she gets caught, sent back to the concentration camps where she suffers and eventually dies.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Don't keep talking about the Holocaust. Though.
No, but that
Yeah.
story is like exactly like what some African Americans had to go through. Because they had to take the Underground Railroad, and they had to try and escape to Canada. But if they couldn't make it, they were found and sent back. And probably been worse than
Running away for a slave, it has immense benefits. Like you get away from that awful lifestyle, but it couldn't have been easy. And if, like you said, if they were
Most
caught.
definitely.
Yeah.
especially if they were caught.
Yeah, if they were caught, like, you know how some slaves, they actually enjoyed decent living conditions, like their masters weren't awful, like, they were all awful.
Yeah,
but
there's some
they weren't
masters that
as
are
bad as some. But if they were caught, like, trying to escape from that, then you just, I think that's the way they lost all favor and all chances of even a decent style of living.
I have a question. Like, do you think like, do you think like, even though there were good people, that are white, they were just caught into like, the rough of the midst of like slavery and whatnot. And they were in that era. Do you think that justifies that what they did as slave owners?
So you're saying that they were good people in general, but
they were good people in general because
else
everybody had to do it.
was owning, so it was like a trend to own slaves.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Does that justify it? Like,
It doesn't justify it at all, but I think it does give some context to why they would choose to own slaves. It's like, if it's a way to save money, then of course people being in business are going to want to take that opportunity. If they're rich enough to afford the extra cheap labor, then they're going to take it. But it doesn't justify the fact that slavery as a whole is an awful method of
I guess it was just at
business.
the time. Yeah, business. At the time, it was just
Capitalism.
yeah. It was at the time. It was just. I I don't convenient. Would I say?
It was, yes.
Yeah, convenient. It was a convenient thing that they would have slaves. Even in some cases that they were good, nice, like you said, they were nice whites, nice whites.
Nice.
And then they treated their slaves with at least some form of like certain ones, some form of dignity, some form of like the slightest privilege. But then they couldn't do anything about it because they needed those slaves to make money. They needed those slaves to get back on their feet. They invested in those slaves. So why waste that money?
Like in the movie.
Yeah, in 12 Years a Slave.
The first master, I don't know.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
I'm stopping myself from making fun of his name. Yeah, he was a good person, like as character-wise. Like, despite the fact that he owned slaves, he didn't treat them badly, so to speak. But at the same time, he refused to free Solomon, even though he knew that.
Because he invested really good money into it.
Yeah, like. At the time, slaves were technically property, and you're not just going to give away that property if they ask
Getting
you.
your PS3.
I don't have a PS3, Jorry.
I don't have PS3.
And adding on to what Madison said, at the same time, they grew up like that. They grew up with that being the normal. And to some people, yeah, it wasn't. They realized it wasn't right. But other people were like, "This is how we've lived for the past who knows how long."
So how can we change?
Yeah, it's like
They,
changing their entire lifestyle.
like at the time,
That's true.
at the time, I don't even think that they thought to consider the fact that maybe this is kind of a messed up system we work with.
I mean, some people didn't realize
Some people did,
it.
like one of the
eventually.
characters in the movie,
Yeah,
the one that helping out. I don't know his name.
He was
It was
from
like- it was
Canada.
Thor.
Thor. Was it Thor or was it Brad Pitt?
like Thor.
Brad
It
Pitt.
was
Brad
Brad
Pitt.
Pitt.
The white guy was trying to build.
Yeah, he was the white guy that was
from
trying to build.
Canada.
He was from, yeah, he
Was he a slave too? I thought.
was he a slave?
No, but I was talking about the people who had, like, all they've known was people owning slaves. A lot of them, I don't think that they ever realized that maybe this isn't a good thing that we do. Maybe these are actual people with a will of their own. Maybe
So that's what they thought was right.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then to add on to that,
Go away.
they add on to Kate's, like they were born into this. This was their nature. Like even
Not nature.
not nature, but then this is where how they are raised up. Like slaves
How
are
they used to
normal.
live.
Yeah, slaves are normal. Same way like
Computers are normal.
computers are normal for
convenient
some
for
reason.
us.
Yeah, they are convenient.
But they used to not be,
They used to not be exactly.
because they weren't a thing.
Before slavery was a thing, though, was the economy a mess? The economy's a mess now.
Economy's always.
I mean, I guess slavery was like always a thing.
Pardon?
Because it didn't just start in America.
It didn't. Most of it.
It started in Africa.
Yeah, like with Egypt and the slaves building the pyramids.
So it started long before.
Yeah,
So
but was it only made into an issue during the slave trade? Because
I mean, I guess it's always been an issue.
it's always been an issue.
it's always been an issue.
But
like,
we
was
decided to do something.
was it made aware to the public during everything happening in Africa? Like, did we care then?
No?
I think the slave trade itself, that in itself, it was very big because it affected the North America itself. It affected how North America looks upon like other cultures.
Because I think it was made big because Canada decided to make it illegal. And so the slaves would start trying to run away.
Oh yeah,
And so they'd run away to Canada from America. And then I guess it went global.
It went global to outlaw slavery. How quickly did it go global?
I'm not sure. I don't even think it went global.
It's not global now.
I know. But it was talked about throughout North America a lot. Because we would gain, in Canada, we would gain a bunch of slaves. And, like, what was in New York? Like, 1,300 people of their population were Black American slaves. We're almost at 10 minutes.
Okay.
Wanna add something?
Yeah, but the fact that Canada is plays such an important role in the history of Black American immigrants via the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
So you guys, you should be up, finishing up, and
Yeah, okay.
uploading your videos now.
Do you want anything else?
Do you want?
Before? Okay, last question. How do you think that
We've improved.
we've improved, or how do you think the slave trade or just slavery in itself has affected right now in Canada?
Well, like as I was saying with the whole thing about Canada playing such a huge part in the immigration of the slaves, it's really added to our reputation as a country. It's like the fact that we were one of the first. Were we one of the first?
To accept slaves?
I don't know, but
We probably weren't the first to help
Yes.
slaves get free, but we were one of the, I guess, well known.
Yeah, we're like we became known as helping like a helper country,
Yeah.
and now we're very multicultural as it is today. So I guess
Except when
that's
it came to Syria.
that's one of the impacts. Okay, and your other question was how we moved past
Yeah,
slavery.
but how have we moved past it?
In a lot of ways, we haven't. Like slavery itself is not happening in Canada, but there are other forms of persecution towards people of color in general, especially in America.
Did I talk about what was it called?
We talked about the shootings. Remember?
Oh, the shootings. I didn't talk about shootings. Can you talk about
You did? Oh yeah.
I talked about how there will always be that
Yes.
there will always be that person who's better than a person.
Or who thinks they're
Who thinks they're better than a person. Just like
they might not necessarily be better.
exactly. So like a white person might think they're better than a black, or an Asian might think they're better than a white because they're smart. Or just there'll always be that
Sure, that's a stereotype.
No, but stereotypes really affect the way we think as a society.
I think as a society affects what we play into stereotypes.
We do play into stereotypes.
Yeah.
Like in order to be to feel recognized for what we are, we will play into the stereotypes that society has made of us. Otherwise, they're like, oh, you can't actually be that. You don't fit our description of that.
Yeah.
And that really goes for.
I can't play basketball.
Because
I'm Filipino.
I can't sing. I'm not Filipino.
what was that thing, that book we read on that immigrant? When he,
Were you in
To
my
the box?
huh?
The one in the box?
No.
Wait, what?
It was a story we read when we were going through immigration. He was like a stranger, and they didn't want to.
The band?
Yeah. They didn't want to give him jobs, and they didn't know his skills and stuff. I don't know.
Oh, it sucks. Slavery is so downplayed everywhere. Makes you so angry. Like,
I think we should stop now.
Alright, Jorry, do you have any words to wrap it
just
up?
just in general, slavery. I don't know what words to wrap it up with. My other wrap up, I think it was just like
Bottom line, it's not going away. Racism.
racism is not going away. That is the pure part of it, the pure truth of it. There will always be that person who thinks they're better than someone else. So
We have moved forward from, or at least in Canada, we've moved forward from slavery itself, but
racism.
yeah, racism and persecution
Don't tell
is
me.
just
I
part
like
of
that word, persecution.
persecution. It's just part of who we are as a species, and it's a really ugly part of who we are as a species, but it's not going to go away.
So, with Wolf, I hope you like that.
Yeah.